Hi, welcome to our last meeting about Procreate. I hope that you have been enjoying this class so far and that you've learned some useful skills. This meeting, I think, is going to be the most fun one yet. We're going to take all the little things that we've learned up, our little toolkit that we've been assembling through the prior meetings, and now we're going to take our art to the next level. I'm going to show you and teach you some really cool things you can do with Procreate that you maybe didn't even think of and you can use these things to add to your art and just create whatever your heart desires. So just an important thing to note, don't forget about the workbook that I am posting in the classroom. That'll be with the post for this lesson, because some of the things that I show you today, you may not particularly be interested in right now, but maybe a month from now, you're going, oh, I want to do that. How did she say to do that? So if you get that workbook, you'll be able to check back without having to maybe rewatch the class over again. So go ahead and grab your iPad so that you can work right along with me. You can kind of try out the skills that I'm going to demonstrate for you here today, and let's get started. We're going to start today with a skill that I call typography, which basically means word art. Or it could just be, it doesn't even necessarily need to be artistic, but in Procreate, you can add text to your drawing. You can even make the whole sheet text as if you were typing in like a Google Doc or something, even if you want to. So I want to show you first a little bit about how you add text to your drawing in Procreate. So to get started, I'm going to go up here to my wrench. And I'm on my add screen where the little check or the little plus is blue. And I'm going to go ahead and select add text. And it's automatically going to then put up a text box with the word text in it. And it's automatically going to select a font. The way that the letters look right here, that is called a font. You can change it. It could be like cursive or some kind of fun, quirky looking text, but it automatically gives you a text. And for now, we'll just stick with it. So as you can see, it also popped up my keyboard down here when I said add text. So let's just put the sky is the limit. The sky. And then I want this text to kind of take up a lot of room on my screen. So I'm going to actually hit enter to make it go on its own lines. The sky is the, but when I went to another line, it automatically capitalized, and I don't want to capitalize because this is all one sentence. So to uncapitalize, you always know it's going to put a capital letter if shift is white. So I'm just gonna hit the shift key and make it gray, and then it won't capitalize it. Is the and limit. Okay, so once I have typed in my basic words that I want there, I can just click my little cursor up here at the top. And then now it's selected it just like how when we resize and move and shape things, drawings, part of our drawings, but I don't actually want to do anything yet with it because remember I said I want it to be really big on my page, and I want to change the font, the style of the letters. So I could resize it right now just like I would a shape, but with text, with words, there's a different way to do that. So I don't want to do that right now. So I'm just going to click my cursor again so that now my text is no longer selected at all. But still, it doesn't look how I want it to look. So how now can I go and change these words? So what I'm going to do now is go to my layers, and any layer that has text on it, you're just going to see a little A in the box, the picture box, where normally we would see whatever's on the layer. And then you'll see just the beginning of whatever your text says, whatever you've typed there. So I want to select my little layer options, and I want to go to edit text. You see how that is one of the options there. So I'm going to go to edit text. When I hit edit text, my keyboard comes back up. If I wanted to change the words there, I could go ahead and highlight them. And so I could either clear them, or I could highlight them. So I could select all and then change it if I wanted to. But I'm happy with what it says. I just want to change how it looks now. So again, I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to click on my layer options and hit edit text, which is right there. And then I'm going to bring up my keyboard options. So I can type, like I said, but now what I want to do is work with the size and the font of my text. So I'm going to click this little, you'll always see some suggested words, but over here in the corner, you're always going to see this, a big A and a little a. Click on that, and that's how you access all your different choices for things that you can do to the font. And there's a ton of different things that you can do. So attributes is one that you might find that you use a lot. Right now it's selected on centered, and that's why my text is a nice little even column here. But there might be times maybe you'd rather have your text all over at the edge and you'd like it all to be lined up evenly. Or you could have it on the other side. And then if you add this one, if you have a bunch of text, like a whole paragraph, this will just make it look all nice and like a box and nice and neat. But I like the centered one. And then like we were talking about with fonts for Procreate, that's over here. And it'll always just add in your text in just a basic font. And then you can go back and change it. So let me see. I'm going to go with Bradley Hand. And then over style, some of the texts won't have any different options for style, but you can make it bold. Some of them, you can make it italic, which means that it'll make the letters slant. Some of them will have different options you can choose there. Now I said that I want my text to be big. So instead of resizing my box like I would with a shape, I actually am going to use the size slider that's here in the text. If you resize the stuff like you would normally a shape, sometimes it can make your letters look fuzzy. So it's important when you're working with text to go ahead and use the size in the edit text section. But now you can see that I made my text so big that the sky went down to another line, and I don't like that. So I can increase the size of my box so that it now has room to be on the right line. Now, one more cool thing, a couple more cool things. Sometimes with some of the fonts, you might like the way the letters look, but you feel like they're spaced out too far. You want to be able to mash them together so they fit better. So that's what kerning does. So if I slide this kerning, I can either mash my letters closer together, or I could spread them out more. I normally am happy with the way the letters are. I normally don't adjust the kerning. But another thing that I do use a lot is called leading. So you can see with my text, there's quite a bit of white space between the lines. So if you want to decrease that white space, you want to put the lines closer together, that's when you want to use the leading option. And then see how it kind of makes everything kind of squished together a little more. And when you're making word art, you'll apply this different ways. You might be making actual art like what I've got here. I'm kind of working with a quote. Or maybe you could use words, maybe you're making like a book page. Maybe you're making like a comic book or a children's picture book or something like that. So you might have more text on a page and you might want it to be smaller, especially if it's like a comic book, because there's going to be all kinds of drawings and then you want your text to be really small. So you'll just find all kinds of different reasons why you're going to want to edit your text. So let's go ahead. Once you've got your text the way you want it, you can just hit done to get out of it. And now you're good. So text is really fun. Now, just a note about fonts. Procreate comes with a number of really cool fonts that I use all the time. And I think we talked about with brushes, how you can actually download new brushes that don't come with Procreate. Same with text, same with fonts. So you can buy packages of fonts, and also you can download free ones off the internet. But just make sure that if you are going to do that, just make sure that you get a grown-up's help, because like I've said in the past, you can download viruses onto your device. So feel free to explore extra fonts, but just be very careful about it. Okay, so now that we've got some knowledge on typography, I'm going to use that now to show you some other cool things that you can do with Procreate. So for now, I want my words, but I don't want them right now. So for now, I'm going to uncheck my words and we'll come back to those later. But what I want to do now is show you how to make a galaxy sky. And this is going to be a technique that you can apply to lots of different types of art, and you could use this technique for making a daytime sky too, or like a stormy sky. But I'm just going to show you some things about how to make a galaxy sky for now. So what I want to do is add a new layer with my plus sign on top of my text layer. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually take my black, I've already got it on black here, and I'm just going to drop it down and flood that whole layer, turn it black. So that's really easy, first step for a galaxy sky. And honestly, that works too. Obviously, the galaxy sky many times is black. So black, just plain black works. So you can always flood a layer if you want with color. So now, if you've ever seen a galaxy sky, like galaxy art, a lot of times there's just all kinds of swirling colors. So what I use for that is the brush called Nebula. I'm going to make myself a new layer, and now I'm going to go to my luminance brushes, and Nebula is actually already selected. And that is my very favorite brush that comes with Procreate for making space-themed drawings. And I think with this Nebula, I'm going to start with like a pink color. So I'm just going to choose some kind of hot pink. And for making a whole sky, I want to actually turn my Nebula all the way up. And Nebula works a little bit different than other drawing brushes. You want to just kind of tap on Nebula. And it's really weird. I don't know if it does this in everybody's Procreate. Like my daughter on her iPad, it doesn't do this. But for some reason, I can tap in my Nebula and it won't at first be the color that I asked it to be. You can see I chose pink, but when I tap it in, it's red for some reason. So you kind of got to go slow with Nebula and only tap one at a time until you get the color that you actually want. But you can see how this is really pretty. This looks really spacey. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. And now I'm going to switch to like a purple. And we'll see what color this gives me. It's the exact same color. Okay, I'm gonna choose a different color because it's not giving me a purple. And this is, oh, that's pretty. I chose blue, but it's just really finicky with Nebula. However, it's well worth it because it's so pretty. So I'm gonna make a new layer. Oh yeah, that's really pretty. And I'm just gonna keep making new layers and choosing new colors to try to layer in these just really crazy spacey colors. So, and with Nebula is just such a funny brush because basically it does what it wants. But I just keep working with the bright, spacey type colors until I'm happy with it. So I'm just gonna try a few more things. And every time I tap in a new Nebula color, I just go ahead and make a new layer. So you see there's lots of Nebula layers here. I'm gonna go ahead now, I've got all these Nebula layers. I'm gonna go ahead and merge them. I didn't merge my black background layer yet. I don't know if I'll be keeping that, we'll see. Now I'm going to make a new layer and I'm actually gonna go back to black. Now I'm gonna go to sketching and I'm gonna choose my artist crayon. And again, for this, because you see I'm working with the whole screen, so I'm gonna turn my artist crayon all the way up, make it really big. And then I'm just going to kind of layer on this gritty black color. But now I have covered up my pretty nebula. So what I wanna do is just go to my black crayon layer, select my blend mode, and I'm just gonna bump back that opacity. And I think for a galaxy sky, that gives me a really nice idea of, it's still a black nighttime sky, but that beautiful nebula is behind there. Now I need a true white, which unfortunately my background is covered. And remember how we can select a true white by just tapping on the background. But so what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and make all my layers invisible just so that I can grab my true white. So I just pressed down and now it's changed to true white. So now I'm gonna come back and create a new layer. And now I want to put in the stars. And what I use for stars sometimes in Procreate is in the spray paint. And I use Flicks, which I think we talked about Flicks a little bit last week as well. Flicks is really cool. It works for a lot of different things. So you might have to kind of mess with the size. I think I want them a little bit bigger than that. And then you can tap it on just like we did with the nebula. And then actually what I have this big layer of stars. Now let's make a new layer. And now I'm gonna turn the flicks down a little bit and make smaller stars. Maybe like a kind of a spiral. And then what we can do is go back to my blend modes, and where the white stars are, I'm gonna click my blend modes and turn it to add, because I just always feel like add makes things really bright and glowy and kind of pop out. And let me go to the bigger layer of stars too. Let's try add for it. I like it, but let's bump back the opacity and make those bigger stars less noticeable. And then those smaller stars just kind of pop out like that. So that's a really pretty galaxy sky, very fun thing to make in art. There's lots of different things you can make with a galaxy sky, but let me show you why in particular I wanted to make that. So we've got this sky really nice the way we want it. One thing to know about blend modes, where we changed both of those the star layers to add, sometimes it can be finicky to merge layers after the blend mode. It can, see how when I merged those, watch what happens to the art. Those bigger stars got really pale. Let's try merging the two add layers together. Yeah, if I merged the two add layers together, they didn't change. So now let's try merging them. Oh, they both went light on me. Let's try first merging my black layer with my nebula layer. And now I'll try merging the add layer. Yeah, so when I did it that way, anytime you change the blend modes and then you want to later merge your layers together, you just kind of have to be careful. You might have to merge layers one at a time because it can kind of change what you were trying to do with your blend modes. But now I've got it. I am going to keep my, well, let's see how it looks without the black background. Yeah, it just makes it a little bit lighter. Hardly any difference. I like the black background though, so I'm going to merge those. But you'll notice I did not merge my text layer. So underneath this beautiful galaxy sky, I know that I still have "the sky is the limit" written with black text, okay? So I'm going to bring that back. Well, I can't see it, obviously. It's covered by my galaxy sky. But what I want to show you right now is called the screen blend mode. So watch what happens now that I've got my galaxy all on one layer. I've got my text underneath it. So if I go to my blend modes and scroll down to screen, look what happens. Now that quote that I made has the galaxy inside it. And let's go back to my text. Let's change the font just to see how it looks with different writing. So I'm going to go to Edit, Text, and select my little big A and little a. And I'm just going to kind of scroll through some different fonts, see how it looks. See, when you give it a little bit bigger font, you can kind of see the galaxy sky more. Oh, that's neat. That kind of has a spacey look to it. Let's keep that. So the screen tool makes it so that if you put your layer on top and you put something that's made with black behind it, it is important to make the text black, or a shape if you're using a shape instead. Actually, let me just demonstrate this. So let me go back to a solid pen, like technical pen, and I'll actually draw on a layer underneath my galaxy layer and watch what happens. This is going to be cool. Whatever you draw in black underneath your screen layer, everything's going to go away except for whatever's over what you drew. So screen just is a really cool way to add just cool effects to your text. Since I chose a quote about the sky, it was kind of cool to put a galaxy sky over it. So that's one really cool way to use a screen, the screen tool. And let me show you another way, which is called Gaussian blur. So I'm gonna just temporarily uncheck my galaxy now. And I'm going back to, I've got my black shape and black letters under on a layer. Now I'm making a whole new layer on top again. I have not done anything with the blend mode yet. I'm gonna do my drawing first and then use the blend mode. But what I need to do now, I think I'm going to go to airbrushing and get myself a hard brush. And let's just use, colors for right now, doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do, oops, I've got my opacity down. I want to put my opacity all the way up. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. And this is a fun activity because you're really just scribbling. And I always find that fun. If there's a way to scribble and make art that's really cool, I find that fun. So again, I'm on a layer that's above my text and my shape. That's important. And I'm just kind of making some stripes of color. I don't care about covering the whole screen. I just care about making sure that I've covered the text and that circle that I drew. So now that I've got all those things covered, I'm now going to select my little magic wand up here, and I'm going to go to Gaussian blur. It's right down here in this second category. And then I just hit layer, which means now it's going to work with the entire layer, everything that's on it. And you see how it says slide to adjust. So that just means take your finger or your pencil and you're going to drag across the screen. And you see how the more I drag, the more the colors blend together. So you might want them a little bit blended or kind of a lot blended. I kind of like that. I like I like it a lot blended. And once you've got it where you want, you've got it blurred how you want it to, you can simply hit your magic wand again to make it unselected now. And now I'm gonna use my screen trick again. I'm gonna go to my layer, go to my blend modes, scroll down to screen, and now I have this really cool kind of blurry gradient effect over my letters and my shape. Kind of gradient is when you kind of stack colors one on top of each other like a rainbow, but not necessarily rainbow colors. So that's another really pretty way to make text. And also then another thing you can do with your little tools here in your magic wand, and there's, as you can see, there's all kinds of options here, and you can experiment with them as much as you want, but Gaussian blur, the one I just used, and what I'm about to show you are the two that I basically use. The next one is called noise, and I'll hit layer again. And this is another slide to adjust feature, but on this one, I've already made a Gaussian blur out of my colors, but now as I slide, you can see the text changing and it looks like glitter now. So, and now I can just unselect it. So as you can see, it gives you this really cool glittery effect. So you're probably already thinking with your imagination of cool ways you could use this. One way I use it is to make t-shirt designs, or like coffee mugs or stickers or like iPad covers, things like that. So I really love the glitter text and the Gaussian blur text.